The Life of Frida Kahlo, a true story of pain and power. Early life. Frida Kahlo was born on July 6, 1907, in a small blue house in Coyoacán, a town near Mexico City. Her house was called La Casa Azul, that means the blue house in Spanish. Today, that house is a museum, but back then, it was just her home. Her full name was Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo y Calderón, but everyone called her just Frida. She had 3 sisters and grew up in a busy house full of family. Frida's father was named Guillermo Kahlo. He was a photographer. He came from Germany, but he moved to Mexico. Her mother, Matilda Calderón, was Mexican and came from a Spanish and indigenous background. Frida was a bright, curious, and imaginative child. She liked to read books, play games, and draw pictures. She had a small garden with animals, and she loved to be outside. But when she was just 6 years old, something very bad happened. She got a disease called polio. Polio and the first pain. Polio is a serious illness that can make muscles weak. Because of polio, Frida's right leg became very thin and shorter than her left leg. She walked with a limp. Some children laughed at her, and she felt very sad. But Frida was very strong. She didn't give up. She said, "I will be different. I will be myself." Even as a young girl, Frida liked to dress in unusual clothes. She wore suits like a boy sometimes. She wanted people to see her as unique. She was never afraid to be different. School and dreams. Frida went to a good school called the National Preparatory School. She was one of the few girls in the school. She wanted to be a doctor, not a painter. She loved to study science, math, and biology. She was also very interested in Mexican culture and politics. At school, she joined a group of young thinkers, writers, and artists. They talked about freedom, art, and revolution. Frida was very smart and always had something to say. At this time, she met a famous Mexican muralist named Diego Rivera. He came to the school to paint the big wall. Frida watched him and asked him questions. She said, "One day, I will make him notice me." But at age 18, her life changed forever. The terrible accident. On September 17, 1925, Frida was on a bus with a friend. They were going home after school. The bus was very crowded, and people were sitting and standing. Suddenly, the bus hit a streetcar. The accident was horrible. Frida's body was broken. A metal rod went through her hip. Her spine, ribs, legs, and collarbone were all fractured. She was in terrible pain. Doctors did not think she would live. She had to stay in bed for many months. She wore a special body cast and could not move. She could not go to school, walk, or do anything. She was often alone in her room. But during this time, something beautiful happened. She started to paint. Painting herself. Frida's parents gave her a special easel, so she could paint while lying down. They put a mirror on the ceiling above her bed, so she could see herself. Frida began to paint her own face, her eyes, her feelings. She said, "I paint myself because I am alone and I know myself best." Frida painted self-portraits full of emotion. She didn't smile in them. She showed her pain, her loneliness, her strength, and her love for Mexico. She used bright colors like red, green, and yellow. She painted flowers, animals, and symbols from Mexican culture. Meeting Diego Rivera again. In 1928, Frida met Diego Rivera again. This time, she showed him her paintings. He was impressed. He told her, "You have talent. You are a real artist." They started to spend time together, and in 1929, they got married. Frida was 22, and Diego was 43. People thought they were a strange couple. He was very big, and she was very small. But they loved each other. They traveled to San Francisco, Detroit, and New York City. Diego worked on big murals, and Frida painted more and more. But she didn't always like the United States. She missed Mexico, its colors, its people, and its food. Love, pain, and heartbreak. Frida and Diego's marriage was not easy. Diego had many affairs. He even had an affair with Frida's sister, Cristina. Frida felt angry and hurt. She also had affairs with men and women. One of her friends was the Russian leader Leon Trotsky, who stayed in Mexico for a while. Frida wanted to have children, but because of her accident, she could not. She lost several pregnancies, and each one broke her heart. She painted her pain in sad and powerful paintings like Henry Ford Hospital and The Broken Column. Still, she never stopped painting. She turned her pain into art. She showed her truth. She said, "I never paint dreams or nightmares. I paint my own reality." Becoming a famous artist. At first, not many people knew about Frida's art. But over time, people began to notice. She had shows in New York, Paris, and Mexico City. In France, the famous artist Pablo Picasso said he liked her work. He said, "Frida's paintings have power and honesty." Frida loved painting Mexican people, folklore, animals, and herself. She painted monkeys, birds, hearts, skulls, and trees. She mixed real life with dreams. Her style was called surrealism, but she didn't agree. She said, "I paint real life, my life." Last years and death. In her later years, Frida's body became weaker. She had more than 30 surgeries in her life. She had to use a wheelchair, and sometimes she could not get out of bed. But she still painted. She painted with her hands, with her heart, with everything she had left. In 1953, she had her first solo art show in Mexico. She was very sick, but she came to the show in her bed. People applauded and cried. It was her dream come true. A year later, on July 13, 1954, Frida died in her blue house. She was only 47 years old. Her last painting was called Viva la Vida. It means long live life. In her diary, she wrote, "I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to return." Today, the legend of Frida Kahlo today, Frida Kahlo is not just remembered as a painter, she is remembered as a legend. She is one of the most loved, most respected, and most recognized artists in the whole world. Even people who don't know much about art know her name and her face. You can see her face almost everywhere. It is on t-shirts, bags, posters, notebooks, coffee mugs, and even on phone cases. Many young people have pictures or tattoos of Frida. Her strong eyebrows, colorful flowers in her hair, and serious face have become a symbol. People don't just see her as an artist. They see her as a hero. Frida's life story inspires millions of people. She had many problems. She was sick, she had pain, and she couldn't walk easily. But she still worked hard. She never gave up. She turned her pain into powerful art. She showed that it is okay to feel sad, angry, or different. She said, "This is me, and I will show the world who I am." Many people see Frida as a symbol of strength. She was brave when life was difficult. Some people also see her as a symbol of freedom because she lived the life she wanted, not the life others wanted for her. She wore traditional clothes when others wore modern ones. She talked about her feelings when others stayed quiet. She loved who she wanted, even when society didn't agree. Frida is also a strong symbol of feminism. That means she believed that women are strong, smart, and important. She didn't try to be perfect like in magazines. She showed her real face, her scars, and her emotions. She said, "I am a woman and I am proud." Today, her home, the famous Blue House, or La Casa Azul, is a museum in Mexico City. It looks just like it did when Frida lived there. Inside, people can see her paintings, including some of her most famous ones, her paintbrushes, easels, and art tools, her traditional clothes with bright colors and long skirts, her shoes, jewelry, and beautiful handmade accessories, her letters and diary, where she wrote about her feelings, her dreams, and her pain, the bed where she painted when she couldn't stand, the garden where she sat with her animals, like monkeys and birds. Every year, thousands of people visit this museum. Some people come from Mexico, others from the United States, Europe, Asia, and every corner of the world. They come to feel close to Frida. They come to understand her life, her heart, and her spirit. Books, movies, and documentaries have been made about her. One very famous movie, Frida, starred Salma Hayek. It showed her life in a powerful way. There are also many children's books that teach young kids about Frida, not just about her art, but about her courage and individuality. Frida Kahlo's story teaches us many things. We don't have to be perfect to be special. We can turn pain into creativity. We should be proud of our culture, our roots, and our history. We can be different and still be beautiful. We must keep going, even when life is hard. Frida Kahlo once said, "Feet, what do I need you for when I have wings to fly?" Her body was weak, but her mind and soul were strong. She lived, loved, cried, and painted with all her heart. Today, we remember Frida not just as a woman who suffered, but as a woman who created beauty out of pain, who spoke the truth, and who inspired generations. Her art will never die. Her story will never be forgotten. Frida Kahlo will live forever in our hearts. Final words. Frida Kahlo's life was full of pain, but also full of color, love, and strength. From a very young age, she learned that life is not always easy. She became sick as a child. She had a terrible accident when she was only 18. Her body was broken many times. She could not become a doctor like she wanted. She could not have children. She was often sad, alone, and in pain. But she did not give up. Instead of stopping, she picked up a paintbrush and began to paint her truth. She painted her feelings, her dreams, and her pain. She turned her sadness into beauty. Frida showed us that even when we are hurting, we can still create something amazing. She showed us that it is okay to cry, to feel broken, or to be different. She said, "This is me, and I will not hide." She wore traditional Mexican clothes with pride. She painted with bold colors. She wrote her thoughts in her diary. She lived her life the way she wanted, not the way others told her to live. She loved deeply. She spoke honestly. She was brave in a world that wanted her to stay quiet. Even after her death, Frida Kahlo continues to inspire people all over the world. Children, artists, teachers, and dreamers look at her story and feel stronger. They see a woman who lived with pain, but also with fire. They see a woman who told the world, "Look at me. I am not afraid." Her life was short, but her message is forever. Frida once wrote, "Feet, what do I need you for, when I have wings to fly?" She did not let her broken body stop her from flying in her mind, in her art, and in her spirit. She flew higher than anyone expected, and she never came down. Frida Kahlo's story is not just the story of a Mexican painter. It is the story of a woman who turned her pain into power. It is the story of someone who showed us how to live fully, feel deeply, and be proud of who we are. She will always be remembered, not only for her paintings, but for her courage, her heart, and her voice that still speaks to us today. Frida lives on in every brushstroke, in every flower crown, in every person who dares to be different.